Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Christy Taylor, and I am so excited to have our guest today. We are back with another episode of what is now the WORxK Solutions Career Coach RX podcast. And as you guys know, I like to bring on other coaches because it creates a level of synergy. People are always asking, Christy, if you're a career coach, why are you interviewing other career coaches? And that is because everybody's not my client, right? And I do truly believe I talk a lot about mindset, and I truly believe that as coaches, we need to interview clients for fit. And so this is nothing new. This is a career coaching podcast. And so we want to highlight those individuals who are making a difference. And so today, my special guest that I have on is Bogdan Zlatkov. He is the founder of growthhackyourcareer.com and has taught thousands of smart job seekers how to optimize their resumes and reach their all-star status with their LinkedIn profiles and how to ace their interviews. Now, I'm not one for reading entire bios, Bogdan, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspires you to do the work that you do.
Sure. Yeah. And happy to be here, Christy. Thanks for having me on. So the quick kind of TLDR on me is I used to work in film and television, and then I made a very painful career transition when I moved up here to the Bay Area, trying to transition into tech. So that career transition of video to tech took me 14 months of not just dawdling around, right? Like every single day I was applying to jobs day in, day out. I actually ended up running out of money completely. So I became an Uber driver to kind of like make ends meet. So my days looked like 6 a.m. to about 2 p.m. I'm driving Uber. And then 2 p.m. till 6 p.m. I'm applying the jobs, trying to figure things out. Through that whole process, stuff wasn't really working for me. So eventually I kind of decided to I call it like flip the script on the recruiters. And I actually started interviewing recruiters. So I organized coffee chats with them. I was like, why am I not being, seen? Why are you not accepting my resume? And a lot of the things they told me were really surprising. Like, I'll give you an example. One recruiter said, oh, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people don't put the description of the company on their resume. So now I have to Google every single company on that person's resume, and I don't have time for that. I'll just pass on that resume. So I was like, it could be, something as simple as that, like blocking my chances. So through that process, I figured out the job search process. And once I got my job, I started writing everything down of everything I learned. And that's kind of what created Growth Hack Your Career, and happy to dive deeper into all the resources and fun stuff we have there, but I'll pause there.
Yeah, so you went through. So part of what the work that I do is from a career coaching standpoint. When I'm helping individuals in social impact, I always say it's a mindset thing, right? So from my coaching standpoint, it's not transactional in terms of a client coming to me and saying, "Hey, I need a new LinkedIn and I need a resume. I need all of the career branding stuff." I started to ask those deeper questions. And here you are, you're looking for a job. You've made that transition, right? To go from what you're doing to tech. And you found that quite challenging. So when you talk about your inspiration for the work that you're doing now, when did you start that? And how have you watched it grown over the past few years?
Yeah, so I started really simply. This was not my intention. I just decided to write everything down that I had learned, and I turned it into this really long blog post called The Ultimate Guide to Job Hunting. It still ranks somewhere in the top 5 on Google searches. So like it blew up. People started reading it and sending me comments and being like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is amazing. And I was like, wow, okay, this is like having a really big impact on people's lives. So with my, ex film and TV mindset, I was like, maybe I should turn this into a course. So I turned it into a course, and I made it available for free for people on our website. It's still available there. So started with the resume course, and then people kept coming to me saying like, I got an interview. What do I do? What do I do for the interview? I was like, oh, okay. And so I made an interviewing course, put that up for free as well. Then I made a cover letter course, and it just kind of grew and grew from there. So it's been very organic. It's been very much like a project of passion, right? It hasn't been, I'm not trying to become a millionaire here. I just want to, when I get those stories of people saying like, I got a job, I got a $50,000 raise, like, oh my God, like that lights me up so much. So it gives me energy to do this type of work.
Yeah, I think like one of the myths that I always have to tell people about, like, so let's just start even with the we can talk about job search, right? There's so much information available, right? You even have free courses on this stuff. I think one of the myths that's associated with resumes is that the resume gets you the job. But you just mentioned that, hey, people said, okay, I got an interview. I need to know the interviewing skills. One of the things that I always do when I'm working with clients is I'm going to include some basic interview prep with the resume writing process. And I love how you put those resources out there for free for people to be able to access, and that, that people are inspired by your story. So it's not just about getting the job. I mean, getting the interview, right? That resume is just the foundation. And so what do you, when you're talking to people and telling them, okay, the resume is just a foundation to get your foot in the door, and then it's time for the interview, like, give me some strategies on, like, how do you tell them to prep for these interviews, to make that great first impression?
Yeah. So fair warning, the thing that I'm about to recommend is probably going to make 99% of people cringe. Okay. They're going to be like, I don't want to do that. The number one thing that I found for improving my interviews is actually practicing interviewing, which meant I Googled top 20 questions for interviews.
Yeah.
And I set a timer on my phone for 3 minutes because you have to be really succinct with your interview answers. I used to, as you might be able to tell, I used to ramble on and on because I would get so excited, which I'm sure other people do too. So I set a timer, 3 minutes. That's all I have to answer this interview question. And then I would drill it out loud in my bedroom, just talking to myself and kind of see how my answer, where it might falter, where it might improve it. It's not about memorizing your answer. It's about letting it evolve over repetitions.
Yeah.
So the first time that you do this exercise, and I really recommend that everyone just give it a try. You'll see that whatever you thought your answer was to that question probably like stumbled. You went
Yep.
oh wait, what project should I talk about? Oh, right, all that stuff you want to get done like in the privacy of your bedroom while you're practicing. You don't want to have that stuff happen while you're actually on the interview. So that's my recommendation: is set a timer for 3 minutes. Pick a interview question to answer. Tell me about yourself is a really good one, and practice it 5 times in a row. So practice it 5 times in a row, and then think about, all right, which one of those 5 answers was kind of like my best stuff, and then you make your highlight reel for that answer using that technique. So just go through that. It takes about half an hour to an hour to prepare for an interview doing this, but you'll be so much more prepared for your interview rather than what most people do, which is go and research the company, research the hiring manager, research the team. Like that stuff is, like a prerequisite. It doesn't really help you that much compared to practicing.
Yeah, I always tell people to research the company. That's a standard. When I am working with clients, I teach them a methodology because my take on this is exactly what you said. I like to tell them to use like something to record yourself, like Otterbox. Look at yourself in the mirror, practice, get yourself 4 to 6 good stories, right, that are interchangeable. That if somebody is asking you a question, you can always go back to. Don't use the same story every time, but you could go back to the story maybe that you highlighted earlier, where you were talking about maybe you were trying to give an example for project management. You might come back to the same story to talk about customer service and other ways you solve the problem, but make the interview, like you said, a succinct process. But I like to say also make it all connect, right? Because that whole interview from the moment that you show up, or you even schedule the interview, that's all part of your professionalism and the impression that you're making on the employers. It depends on the interview too. I'm not going to research every leader in the company, right? But I always say that let's go back to make sure that we know a little bit about that organization's mission and what they stand for. Because let me tell you something, Bogdan. I have interviewed for jobs before I really got into this coaching thing. I've interviewed for jobs, and the desperation of looking for a job, right? And then you get interviews, and it's like I show up to the interview, and it's like, what did I apply for? like, did I even know anything about this organization? I was just happy to get the interview and then jumped on completely unprepared. And I'm saying that as a coach right
Yeah.
now, right? Some of the lessons learned. So, okay, so now you got the interview and you are moving. What are your thoughts? And I like to hear career coaches' perspective on companies that are like going through, they make you do 4 or 5 interviews and they want you to do a presentation.
Mhm.
They want you to do free work. I
Yep.
like to say, what are your thoughts on those type of companies? Now, I understand, some of my executive level clients, there's certain things we have to do, and I come out of academia. So from time to time, I've ran interview panels where we expect people to do, we need to see your presentation skills.
Mhm.
But what are your thoughts on like companies doing like the most drastic things? You got 7 interviews and you
I
have
love it. I love it. I love it. Actually, I think I'm the only person on earth that
you
uh,
probably are.
I love it when they want to do more interviews, and I'll tell you why. The more time you give me, the more opportunities I have to prove that I'm the best candidate. So if I truly believe that I'm the best candidate compared to everybody else, don't give me 30 minutes to prove that, right? Give me an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. That's great. 2.5 hours. Oh, you want to give me an assignment? I'm going to crush the assignment, right? I'm going to put everything I can into the assignment. And so, like you were talking about at the beginning about mindset, instead of thinking about it, oh, they're trying to get free work from me. Oh, they want to talk to me some more. It's like, they want to talk to me some more. Like, this is great, right? They're moving me on to the next person. I get to meet the VP. Excellent. I get to ask questions about the company because every opportunity is for you to prove yourself to them, but also to get more intel about, is this actually a good company? So I'll give you an example. About 3 months ago, I was laid off from like my full-time job, and I had to go back on the job search process. So I got to apply all of this stuff firsthand. And I was interviewing with a company, and I thought that, oh, okay, this one might be the one. This one might be the one. And I got to the stage of the VP level interviews, and I asked the person, this is one of my favorite questions. Feel free to steal it if you guys want. I asked him, what do you like the most about working at this company, and what do you dislike the most about working at this company? And for the like one, who cares? They say, some positive things, but the dislike is usually so revealing. So this VP said, he was like, I think we do good work, but like the majority of my day is just spent in meetings. I spend like 90% of my day in meetings and only 10% of my day actually doing the work. And I was like, oh God, I do not want that to be my day to day, my life, right? So that gave me an opportunity to ask some of those questions so I could find out how to evaluate that opportunity. The
I love
other,
your perspective on that. I
thank
love
you.
your perspective. It's
Yeah.
completely different from mine. I will say, after around, I would say 3 interviews, because we do a phone interview, we do it in person, or we go up the chain. I just am not going to do. Now, this is my personal perspective,
Sure.
and I'll tell this to clients. I tell clients, you have to decide for yourself which approach you want to take. Me, I don't do long applications.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do, I remember this job that I'm working now. I remember doing an interview, and the lady, the HR person, was like, I'm looking forward to working with you. It's like I felt like she knew then that I was a fit. But sometimes it depends on the job too, right? Because if you're going up for some senior leadership roles, there may be multiple interviews involved.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not going to write a full project plan and report, but I will do things like presentations, because those are some skills that people need to see. They need to
Yeah.
see, like if I'm recruiting. So it just depends on the person. But I really like your mindset and your
Yeah.
attitude, and it's something about what you were saying, where we need to be interviewing the employer as well, like asking questions up front, like not just like how you interviewed the recruiters and
Yeah.
how you were asking these questions. So how do you advise clients on that? Because you were giving some great examples of what you were doing as you were talking to that VP.
Yeah. So the questions that you ask during the interview are actually more important than the answers you provide. I think a lot of people don't realize this. They're going to evaluate your thought process based on the questions that you ask. Typically, in a 30-minute interview, you only get to ask about maybe 2 or 3 questions. So it's really important that you pick smart, interesting questions. Um, I have a list on our website of kind of smart questions that you can ask. One that I'll give you right now, though, that's really helpful in navigating all of your interviews is with the recruiter, asking them, what do you recommend I talk about with X person? So if you're talking to the recruiter and you ask them, oh, what would next steps look like? And they'll be like, well, next steps will be that you'll probably be talking to Samantha. She is our manager of blah, blah, blah. You go, oh, interesting. Yeah. So if I do move on to the next stages, what do you recommend that I focus on with Samantha specifically? And 9 times out of 10, the recruiter will literally give you the answers to your next interview. So she might say, oh, Samantha, she's really into data. So make sure whatever you talk about stories that like back it up with data, because she doesn't like it when people just talk about creative work only. And you go, okay, make a note. And then when I go and meet with Samantha and she says, tell me about a time that you ran a project and it was a great success. I go, well, all my projects, I really start with the data first.
I like it.
Data is really important to me. I think data-based decisions are so important, right? Like, and you can see her eyes light up. She starts smiling because I'm speaking exactly to the point she wants. So that little like secret question at the beginning of the recruiter interview is really useful. And you can keep using it if they move you on to the next stage. In the email response, say, thank you. So happy to hear that I'm moving on to talk to Jim. What do you recommend I focus on when I speak to Jim? And the recruiter will give you the answer, because if you pass all the interviews and you get hired, that recruiter gets a big checkbox on their success metrics, managed to fill this role. So they'll help you.
Yeah, I like that feedback because it made me think like any good recruiter that I've worked with is always, even me as a coach, right? And the positions that I go in, I'm asking the recruiters like, is this the resume format that we're looking for, that they're looking for? So, you have to be open-minded in that job search process to really work with that recruiter, because if you win, they win, to your point, right? As you navigate that job process. So here we are. We're getting to the interview. We've gone, even if it's 10 interviews, and we've gone through the process of meeting and moving to that phase of now I'm offered a job, right? And so we move into salary negotiation. And this is like what I really like to also tell clients when it comes to mindset, right? Know your worth, do your research, know your worth, and be able to provide examples of what you can bring to the table, because you're going to have to justify what your ask is, right? And so as we approach that negotiation process, what are your thoughts on salary negotiation and being really taking time to ask what you're worth, not being afraid to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So 3 things here. So the first one is, and you brought this up, is research what the current salaries are. Most people will be shocked by how quickly salaries rise, especially if you've been at your job for more than a year or two. Salaries tend to go up pretty dramatically over time. So if you guys need websites to research that, just go to growthhackyourcareer.com/blog, and we have top 8 salary websites there. So
Bogdan, we're gonna towards the end here. I have your website pulled up, so I'm gonna display it on the screen so you can do a quick walkthrough of it. Okay.
Sure, yeah. So go to that blog post, and there we have 8 different websites, and I recommend cross-referencing between at least 2. So make sure that you actually know what appropriate ranges are, and then never give like an actual number. I think a lot of people pigeonhole themselves by giving like, this is my salary expectation. I give a really wide range. So for example, I will say, I'm looking for anywhere between 110,000 and 160,000. So that's a $50,000 range, which means I don't knock myself out of the running in case the salary is a bit lower, but I also haven't capped myself. I can get all the way up to the 160 range if I can prove my worth. And this brings me back to point number 3, which is I've already actually done my salary negotiation during that interview process, because at every stage of that interview process, you're showing your worth, you're showing your value. So once you get to the salary negotiation stage, you've already done about 90% of the work for negotiating for that salary.
Yeah, it's just a matter of reminding them, right? So during the interview process, I was able to highlight some of this. I literally was able to now I came out of higher education, and it wasn't in a major university, so I'm getting paid teacher salary,
Mhm.
and so in 3 years, I have doubled my salary just based on those approaches, right? And part of that is like doing what you just recommend here, asking for a range Well, 3 years I've tripled my salary because I'm asking for a range. And what I find is that when you have already proven your value during the interview process and you go in and you ask for that range, there are going to be some things that they remember about you. But I've interviewed for jobs who said, okay, Chris, we're not going to be able to meet you at this salary. But then literally, because they wanted to hire me, came back and said, you know what, we're going to give you this salary and we're going to give you this additional. But in the beginning, that is. So don't ever think that, some company that just because it sounds firm in the beginning, that it is not, that is an absolute, right? Because I literally have done that. I mean, I had 3 job offers at once on 2 different occasions. And I'm just saying that knowing your worth, doing your research, and being familiar with these processes and being confident about what you do is going to help you to land that salary. So, we both work with clients to be able to help them through this process. What I want to do now, Bogdan, is I want to go to your website and hopefully technology is on my side. And I want to let viewers kind of in on all of these resources that you are sharing free of charge, because this stuff is out there. We have plenty of stuff we're posting on TikTok. We have plenty of stuff and teaching people how to answer interview questions, teach you how to be more confident. And so let's share some of these things that are on the Growth Hack Your Career site. So give me just a moment. All right. So here we are. We are on your website.
Awesome.
And if you are listening in, Bogdan is going to explain it because some of you might be tuning in from Spotify, but all of the resources and the links for this information is going to be in the description of this episode of the podcast. So here we are. And so I'll navigate and you kind of walk us through.
Sure. Yeah. So, like 99% of our resources are available for free. So when you hit the website, you'll see a button that says, yes, sign me up. You can create a free account. It's just your name and email, no credit card, nothing needed. And then you'll have access to our resume course, our interviewing course, and our cover letter writing course, in addition to a lot of tools. So I tried to assemble a lot of tools that I find that are also free from online. So you get this huge repository of resources. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see our free Get Hired toolkit. So this includes templates, expert advice, courses, tools, all of that. And then if you continue scrolling down, you'll see our coaching services. So this is a very hands-on program. It takes 6 months. It's called the Guaranteed Hire Program. And basically, we guarantee you'll get a job or you don't have to pay anything. So this program is more for people who are like, I need to get hired fast. Like I have exhausted all my resources and I need help immediately. So that one isn't free, but it's definitely worth it. And then I will actually send you a link to our resource center of career coach advice. So I just dropped it in our chat here if you want to take a look, Christy.
Okay. I do not see it. I think my chat is froze. You know what? I do not see it in the chat.
No problem. I can also present screen if that would help.
Okay. Here we go. Now in my let me see. I'm going to stop presenting. I don't know if I can hand it over to you.
Let me see.
Does it allow you to present?
I think it does. Okay. So this will be. Do you see my screen? Okay.
There we go.
Awesome. So this is our repository of different career coach advice. So like we mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, not every coach is meant to work with every job seeker, right? It's a very personal relationship and the career coach needs to resonate with you. So to help with that, we actually created this library of career coaches. It's called Here's My Perspective. And basically you can get advice from some of the top career coaches on LinkedIn. For example, Claire Davis talks about the 2 magic resume words. I'll give you kind of a spoiler alert. They are resulting in. So if you add resulting in to your resume bullet points, they'll be way, way better. We have Steve Brady. He talks about the 5 ATS myths. So what are some of these kind of misconceptions that we have about ATS or applicant tracking systems? Byron Clark talking about how to answer Tell Me About Yourself. Angie Callan on career pivots. And as you can see, if you guys are watching the video, we have a lot of career coaches here. We have stuff about career gaps, skills gaps, how to get referrals. We have stuff about cover letters, how to write a resume if you don't have a lot of experience, how to write a resume if you have a ton of experience. So I really recommend that people check out all these free videos that we have available. Again, they're all available on our website, growthhackyourcareer.com. From that place, you can get to pretty much everything that you need.
I really appreciate the effort that you have put into providing all of these resources, because the whole thing around, this passion that we have for coaching and supporting other people is to make sure that we want to see people be successful.
Mhm.
Again, I incorporate mindset coaching into my model because it's not transactional, right? A lot of times coming into the process of a job search, people come in, they feel defeated, especially if you've been at it for 3 or 4 months and it's just not working in the way that you do. And a lot of times, if I write a resume for a client, within 2 weeks, they'll get a call. They'll call me and say, "Well, I don't have a job yet." Well, first of all, it's only been 2 weeks,
Yep.
right? I had one client that had been like almost 6 years since she had a job. She
Oh,
was
wow.
doing something else, and ended up with working for a top university. So it's just a matter of being patient. It's a matter of making sure that all of these resources that are available, that you take advantage of those resources and you educate yourself. There's just so much out here, right? And so to be like, well, I don't know how to do my LinkedIn. Sure, you can hire one of us, but one of the things that I am the same way. If you're hiring me to work for you, or the thing is, I want to teach you how to do this stuff so that you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
So I really like that approach of providing those resources um, for your clients, for people who are interested in your services. So we are approaching the end of this episode of the podcast. And one of the questions that I always ask, Martin, is for you as a coach to share some words of wisdom and inspiration, and also to give me your shameless plug of where you'll be next, and where people can find you. Any events that you have coming up.
Sure, sure. So, I think my words of wisdom, and this is something that I had to learn over a long period of time, especially in those kind of down moments of my job search where I was just, there's nothing like a job search to kind of like strip you of your confidence, right? Like when you're employed, you feel good, you're in the job, and you feel good about yourself. But if you've lost your job or you've quit and it's been several months, that confidence can really get eroded. And so a lot of job seekers come to me and they say, like, Bogdan, like, I don't have confidence to go and interview. I don't have confidence to go and network and put myself out there. And I always repeat this phrase that I learned a long time ago, which is courage creates confidence. So people aren't just born with confidence. It's by doing small, courageous acts and then succeeding at some of those acts that our confidence gets built. So if you've lost your confidence, I recommend taking those small, courageous acts. That means sending that LinkedIn connection request. That means, reaching out to that old friend for just a coffee chat to see if that they can help you. Yes, those things are scary because they make us feel vulnerable, but that's how you rebuild your confidence, is through those small acts of courage. So that would be my kind of words of wisdom. And to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn every day. Feel free to find me. It's just Bogdan Zlatkov, and I'm pretty much the only one that'll pop up. So highly recommend people connect with me there.
Yeah, so we're gonna make sure that we connect with you, and this is gonna air in April, but this is one of those podcasts where I think the information here is timeless, right? Because in the world that we live in, we, even as career coaches ourselves, we just kind of shared a little bit of our own stories of, we both have had to look for jobs, right? And so it can be hit or miss. This is not my full-time role, the work that I do with supporting social impact and advocacy and career coaching. So we all go through it, guys. And I really love what he said, take that small step, send that LinkedIn request, ask a friend, connect with some of the people that you connected with in the past to see what opportunities available. And so we are so excited. And thank you for coming on today, Bogdan. And again, we'll post all of the information to be able to connect with him in the description for this podcast. Don't forget to follow us across all social media at WORxK Solutions and Career Coach RX. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.